Good evening, everyone. Blake is out on vacation trying to raise the minimum wage of everybody that he loves. So it's going to be all Doc, all hour here on the Doc and Lefty program. And I'm going to take this opportunity first to thank all of our listeners out there. Without you, we couldn't do what we do. Number two, thank our wonderful producer, Maddie, otherwise known as DJ Maddie G. And then our social media girl, Jen Allen, for all the work that she does for us. And we want to thank, again, you, the listeners. We're going to spend this next hour going through the biggest liberal lies and myths that are out there. What I get sick and tired of seeing, especially on Facebook, and that's why we have social media girl, because I would be insane by now if I had to do my own Facebook, telling you. But I get sick and tired of looking at these liberal lies that are repeated over and over by, well, the media, the left, everything else. And I do have it organized tonight, and I'm going to spend time on each section going over these things. Speaking of social media, I'm going to try to get my Facebook up and going here while I talk, so excuse me. The very first thing we're going to go over is the liberal lie of the war on poverty. Now, poverty has been something that has been part of the human condition since we were humans. There's always been somebody out there that didn't have a rock or didn't have a stick or some other thing that they should have had and didn't have. And the problem is let's face it, the Obama economy is not a robust economy. You cannot find anybody who says, yeah, this is one of the best recoveries in history. What they say is, this is the worst recovery in history. The answer is simple why it's worst in history. You cannot tax your way to prosperity. If you could, the Europeans would be billionaires. Every country would have money and gold flowing down the streets. Silver everybody be drinking and eating off silver chalices and plates. But they don't. In fact, half of Europe is bankrupt. The other half is almost bankrupt. And if you look at Germany's economy since, I would say 2012, it's flatlined. It's barely eking along. The only reason that they're still doing well is because they can sell all the stuff to the Southern Europeans who need it, right? Otherwise, they would be belly up just like the rest of Europe. Now, there are some bright spots. Ireland is a bright spot. You know why? Because they reduced taxes and had a tax reform package. And our neighbor to the north has done fairly well during this period of time of economic instability. Why? Because they decreased taxes. And all these countries decrease taxes on the wealthy, all right? And Poland is doing pretty good because they have a set of tax reforms out there. So this war on poverty that they keep telling you about is not a lie. There are people that are in poverty. That's all there is to it. Well, what they keep saying is we've made no advances since the 1960s. There's still 10% of the population that are poor and broke. Well, that's right. Because if you keep saying, well, hold on, the bottom 10% of our population, regardless of what the parameters you set, if the bottom 10% is defined as the impoverished, you're always going to have a bottom 10%. It's like you're always going to have an upper 1%. If you base it on that, yeah, there's always going to be poverty. But if you look at hard numbers from 1970, well, because that will be 3 years into the great economic reforms of LBJ, that's tongue in cheek. If you look at it from 1970 till now, people's living spaces in America are much larger than they were. And to prove this, all you have to do is go over to Beaverdale and Des Moines, take a look at those tiny houses over there. That was a middle-class neighborhood back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? People lived in 900 square feet houses and thought, geez, that's great. So we've increased our living space by about 300 square feet since 1970. Number two, everybody has a car. There's virtually nobody out there that has a car. Now, it might not be a Cadillac. It might not be the best running car, but everybody has one. And that's a giant change from 1970. Everybody has TV. Everybody has internet. Everybody has a phone. Now they call them Obama phones, but they're really not Obama phones. They're Bush phones. And the problem is the telecommunications companies still run wire. You could have a regular phone, but it turns out having a cell phone is cheaper. The Obama phones are $20 a month, whereas it'd be somewhere around $80 a month if you had a corded phone, if you had to make long distance calls and had a long distance plan and all that. That's one of the reasons I got rid of my phone. So people have cell phones, they have TVs, they have internet, they have computers. These are Americans, okay? They buy all the cigarettes you can choke a horse with. They drink a lot. That's what our impoverished are. Now, the bottom line is yeah, they're still at the bottom 10%. And I freely admit, because I've talked about it on the show, we have left an entire generation behind with the Obama economy. But to sit there and say we've made no progress in the war on poverty is simply silly and untrue. We've made tremendous strides. We have one of the healthiest populations out there. Now, when you start talking about healthy, everybody says, well, yeah, but what about diabetes and heart disease? Those are lifestyle things. We have a lifestyle that is so far beyond any other country in the whole world. I listen to people all the time talk about our health care, and that's one of the liberal lies we'll get to later. My response to that is, well, why don't you go overseas and experience what they have? It's just as expensive as it is here. It's just that the taxpayers pay for you, right? Now, the other question I always ask, I'm a big fat guy. I have diabetes. I have high blood pressure because of the lifestyle choices I make. Is it really fair that my brother Joe, who's always been in great shape, has to pay for my lifestyle choices? Well, that's one of those things we'll talk about a little bit later. This war on poverty, we have spent trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, and we really haven't seen anything different. What has lifted people out of poverty has been a reduction in taxation across the board. We see it every single time we reduce taxes. People say, oh, reduce taxes on the rich. Yeah, here's really how it works. A rich guy goes buys a house. After a few years, he goes, hey, I made even more money. I'm going to go buy the next house. So some guy who's middle class goes and buys the rich guy's house because he can now afford it because the economy is 10 years down the road, and he buys this house. And then the guy who's lower class, who is living in an apartment, goes, well, hold on, this middle class guy selling his house, I can now afford to buy it because the economy is 10 years down the road, and now I have a house. And then he moves out, and now there's an apartment available for the poor that need a subsidy. That's how this works. So when you start taxing the people that actually generate income and produce and buy things, what you're really doing is taking money out of the economy and saying the government can spend it better. And this brings me to my last point about the war on poverty. I always see this meme on Facebook. Listen, if you give a millionaire $100, all he'll do is be greedy and invest it somewhere. Man, that's awful because he's investing it. But if you give it to a poor person, he'll spend that money. Well, what do you think the rich guy's going to invest in? Cigarettes, beer, pop, cars, all that stuff. He might go out and spend it. He might go, well, there's $100 and it's free. Let's go out for a dinner. Let's go do something. The point is, people with money spend money. We always talk about, the economists always talk about how Americans don't save money, they spend it. That's true for millionaires, it's true for billionaires, it's true for people who make $100,000 a year. People spend the money to the level in which they want to live their lifestyle. There's a couple exceptions to that. One's my brother, who could honestly live a 1%er lifestyle without breaking a sweat, but saves all his money and lives below his means. He's one of the few people I know. My buddy Dwight does that. He lives below his means. But for the most part, you know, where are you going to get your used cars? I mean, poor people don't go out and buy brand new cars off the lot. It's people with money and income and cash flow. That's how our economy works. That may sound elitist, but that is the reality of it. Now, we're going to stop and take a break. We started a little bit behind, so we're a little bit behind in our breaks. I want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in and staying with us. Next up on the list is going to be gun control and the liberal lies for that. We want to thank all of our sponsors. Excuse me. Des Moines Anesthesia at 515-574-6442. They have re-upped their contract, and we are very thankful for their sponsorship. They do pain management, which, if you know anything about pain management and the crisis as Obamacare and our governor has created, doctors are getting harder and harder to find. They're a large group. They have offices here in Des Moines and Fort Dodge, and they can service your anesthesia needs as well as pain management. Again, their number is 515-574-6442. Halo Capital, Des Moines Interest Rates, Labinas Law Firm at labinaslawfirm.com, and Bertrosian Associates. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks, everybody.